All right. I think we are live and set. Good morning, people. Mark, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good morning.
Um, excellent. So I think just to get us started and ground us in what we're going to talk about today. We're in episode number 2 of our first series. The series is the Vision series. It's the vision of your purpose, how you fulfill it, what that looks like, and then
Oh,
on the other
while you're
side of
talking,
that.
hold on one sec.
Yep. Oh, Mark, Mark's got to make sure that the son doesn't cook him while he's going. So while he's doing that, so just again grounding ourselves in the second episode around vision. The first episode of the series was centered around purpose and understanding what your identity is as an individual, and maybe more so like just tools and what that process looks like to get there. And the second piece, today we're going to talk about like the growth, the self growth, and the mindset and the mastery of self that's required to fulfill that purpose for a lot of us. And sometimes that's if we're all being honest, that's probably the biggest barrier. It's usually not like you don't have a gift. God gave us all gifts, and typically more than one, and so that's usually not the issue. But figuring out how to master those gifts and then master yourself so that you're not in your way is really important. So we're going to talk about that today. We hope that blesses somebody. Before we jump in, if you didn't see the first episode, it's really good. I would give you a recap, but I'm not going to. I want to tell you to go look at the video instead. So go do that. go do that. And you can subscribe at Two Brothers Talking -TX. So it's Two Brothers Talking -Texas. Just go ahead and subscribe there. We welcome you and we thank you. So jumping in, Mark, I'm gonna start us off with just like we typically do. Sometimes we can jump into the hypothetical, but it's better oftentimes to just start with like defining some key statements, right, and some key points, so everybody understands what we're talking about. Can you maybe share your opinion or your thoughts on like what are the key elements of a growth mindset that a person has to have to fulfill their purpose?
Okay, good question. So when we're talking about a growth mindset, for me, first thing I think about is that I'm acknowledging that I'm always in this process where I am I hate to use growing, I'm maturing, I'm becoming. And so when I take that mindset on, I know that I have to pull, I'm constantly pulling from my environment to get the things that I need to continue to grow or to mature or to learn, like this becoming process. So, and then when that connects to my purpose, it's like, hey, there's something God that He wants me to be. There's something that He wants me to do. And so in order for me to reach that, I have to constantly continue to pull from whatever is happening in my life. So now it's like all things are working together for my good, for His glory. So that's kind of where my brain goes when I think about growth mindset. It's like it's my responsibility to draw nutrients from my environment, no matter what it is.
Got it. I think I totally aligned the way you just described that, and I think the interesting part of that process is a lot of times those growth moments, those development moments, they come with adversity. They come in the midst of storms. Oftentimes they come in the midst of discomfort.
Yep.
And I think that's probably another area, or another way I would define a growth mindset is someone who is seeking out that those opportunities for pressure, and for discomfort. Like if you're looking to grow into a diamond, you won't do that in a pressure-free environment. By definition, diamonds only come out of pressure, right? So I think being able to have a bit of a radar to find those opportunities, and maybe even managing your radar so that when that pressure is present or that discomfort is present, your radar doesn't say run. Your radar says run to it and to seek it out. I think that has a lot to do with the growth mindset too. How would you, when you think about like that, those types of moments of adversity, and how to identify the growth in those moments, what are some of the tools that you use personally that help you do that? Like when you're in that moment where you're just like, oh my God, like this is not for me. Well, what is going on here? Like get me out of this.
Yeah.
What are some of the tools you use to assess that situation and to grow from it?
Well, I think the key word for me is the word mindset. So like my mind is already set to the fact that no matter what I go through, the good and the bad, I am supposed to respond in a way where I need to allow this to make me grow. So like if you think about a seed, so Lord showed me this a long time ago and it just has stuck with me, is he plants a garden and puts the man and the woman in the garden and says, be fruitful and multiply, which tells you the man is a seed. What bears fruit? A seed. So it's like he put me in this environment to grow. Once I know that, if you think about a seed, you put a seed in the ground, it's like either it feels like you're going to die because you're being buried alive, or it's a transformation process that contributes to you growing. Right. So the more I think about a seed, it just kind of like brings everything to life, because it's like the seed's buried. That's pressure. Feels like looks like a burial, but it's actually just a wound. And so for me, like the mindset piece is very important. Like it's just a simple fact that I've set my mind to know that this is a part of the process. So, and you mentioned this earlier, it's like now I don't run from things, like I run to them, even if they make me uncomfortable. And that's, I guess, when you talk about tools, just the mindset piece of knowing that this is going to be okay. This is all part of the process. And if I can keep my mind set, then I'll get through it. It doesn't feel any better, but at least I have the peace of mind of knowing this is part of the process.
Right.
So
yeah, it doesn't make it feel any better.
No,
it doesn't make it feel any better during, but it's kind of, it almost like when you were just talking, I had two thoughts. One of them was like when you do a hard workout, like when I was trying to get to a point of a certain type of workout each morning. Let's take an example of if I'm running a certain distance, right? So when I run that distance, every single time, it's not the first time, every single time I want to quit a third of the way through that distance. I want to quit halfway through that distance. I want to quit 3/4 of the way. I want to quit 10 steps from the end of it. Right. And then I'm so thankful I didn't quit one step after the finish line.
Yep.
One step. Like my whole mind changes after that one step. And I think that's that endurance, through the adversity or through the pressure moments, is part of the growth mindset, because you have, to your point, you've gone into that adversity with the intent to grow, not the intent to win all the time. Yeah. I think that is the difference in oftentimes that could be the difference in a growth mindset and maybe a standard mindset today, is like you're going into it for a result first versus going into it to be better first. And if the result happens, the result happens. But you're attacking that result because it is part of your priority, but it's not your number one priority. Your number one priority in a growth mindset is to grow. It's to learn.
I love how you walked it out. Like the whole way, it feels like I don't want to do this. I want to quit. Mm-hmm. But you already know this is what you need. And then you get to experience, when it's over, you get to experience this feeling of like, I did it. Like we got through it. That was good for me. Wasn't good. Mm-hmm. It didn't feel good to me, but it was good for me. I think one of those, I didn't necessarily have a tool in mind, but as you're talking, I was thinking, I probably talk to myself internally. Yeah. I have to walk myself through this. Like, you're going to be okay. Go ahead and cry. Go ahead and be mad, be frustrated, but just keep moving forward, because at the end, you're gonna feel joy. You're gonna feel fulfillment. So I think for me that when I go back to your question, I think about a tool. I think once I have my mind set a certain way, now I'm like talking myself through this, because I'm still gonna want to quit even when I know what I need.
That's right.
Yeah,
exactly right. And there are so many scriptures, whether it's It's Psalms 27:14. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. Like there are multiple scriptures. Probably the one that people most often say to themselves. Maybe not even quoting the scripture exactly, but this the sentiment is God is clear in the Bible about encouraging yourself. So like you do have to speak to yourself, and you do have to speak the outcomes that you desire. And ideally, if you have a relationship with him, those outcomes are aligned to what it is that he's looking to accomplish through you, and with you and around you. So I think that growth mindset is interesting. The other thought I mentioned, I had two thoughts when you were talking. The other thought that came to mind as you were talking, because you brought up the seed analogy, is like, if you keep running from pressure situation to pressure situation, that tells you a couple things. If you're always finding yourself in pressure situations, God is intentionally trying to tell you, hey man, I'm trying to grow you.
Yeah.
Like, stop running.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Stop running.
Yeah.
I got something for you, and you just keep hopping from pressure cooker to pressure cooker, and that's not going to work. The other thing you wind up finding out if you do that is the seed analogy taken into account. If you keep uprooting a tree, you plant the tree outside in your yard, and then you transplant it from there to the backyard. Then you transplant it from there to your neighbor's yard. If you do that every month or year, it won't grow. It won't die, but it won't grow.
Right.
It'll be the same size it was when you started 3-4 years from now. Yep. So like you have to sit in it for a bit. And the only way you do that is you went in, or you change your mindset while you're in it to growing. And then you encourage yourself through it, acknowledging that you want to be better, and you want to be stronger and wiser and more, through God. You want to be more along the way. Like I think that's, when people jump from pressure cooker to pressure cooker, that and it happens to all of us. Yeah. It's happened to all of us, and we've all run from it, if we're being honest, right? So like, just acknowledging like, hey, I'm not gonna actually turn into a diamond if I keep hopping from cave to cave. I need to practice thing for a while.
Well, you know what? And the seed needs to process. Yep. It doesn't need to be in this early stages being seen when it's wintertime. Like, it needs a period in the ground, hidden for a reason. So like, even though we fight the process, even though it's uncomfortable, like, you actually need the process. Like, for instance, like, let's say God is doing something in your life, you're excited, you want to be at this level up here, and for some reason you're like stuck at this bottom level, and you're frustrated because you want to see more fruit, not realizing you don't have the character yet to even be able to handle this level. You don't even know what this kind of pressure feels like. So we need that growth. We need these seasons. We need to go through these processes so that we can hold and handle what God has for our life.
Yep. Have you ever seen 10 apples at the end of a weak branch?
It'll break it.
Yeah. And that's what we all want, though. Everybody wants the fruit. We want the 10 apples, but we don't want to go through all the pain, the stretch, the change, the growth, the hardship, the tears, maybe, the muscle building. We don't want to go through all that it took for those 15 years, 20 years for that tree to get that strong, for that 37th branch to get that strong, and that broad to bear 10 apples. Like no one wants to go through that process, but everybody wants the apples to grow on them, and they want to be seen as the fruit bearer. They also, oftentimes what we want to do is we see other people's apples and we want to go pick those too.
Yep.
Right. And so I think oftentimes, like, that growth mindset, or a lack of a growth mindset, can show up in a lot of ways. And that, like, one way it shows up, I guess, to summarize what we just talked about, is patience and endurance, and a seeking out of the opportunity to develop, and guarding yourself and guiding yourself through that process. I guess when you just kind of pivoting a little bit, when you think about growth mindset as we just described it, where do you think that shows up most, like, in somebody's life today, like in a man's life today? What are the areas you feel that you often see, or maybe you could even speak for yourself, Mark? Like where do you feel like the struggle is real the most, as far as areas of a life where the growth mindset is, or a lack of a growth mindset might show up?
Yeah, it's probably when we need the opinions and the advice from other people. When we need to grow, we tend to want to lead. The pride sometimes will get in there and you'll kind of block trying to receive help from somebody else, especially as men. And I think that'll get us in trouble because we think we have to put on this show that I've already arrived, as opposed to humbling myself and saying, I'm not there yet, and you might have something that I need in order to mature and grow. So I think as men, kind of being wired to some degree to lead, and then you have that pride piece. I think we naturally are resistant to what a growth mindset actually is, which is it's a humbling experience because you're literally saying, I have not arrived and I need the help from somewhere else outside of myself. That's not an easy pill to swallow.
Yeah, agreed. And I think the areas for me that jump out are, and to be specific about like life areas. Number one is marriage. I think in order to have a growth mindset in your marriage, it just requires so much submission to God when you might not get that submission anywhere else to you. And and like whether it's it's your spouse, it's your kids, you might not even be submitting to yourself. There's just a lot of areas in marriage that I think are potential opportunities for growth and pressure cooking, and they do make you better if you so choose to let them. And then I think the other two areas that jump out to me to kind of round out the three. Number two is your household, which I think is bigger than marriage. So if you have kids, kind of owning the experience in your household, I think that's an area for where a growth mindset or a lack of could show up. And then the other area is what I would kind of call your purpose, which could be like your employment, your job, if you're an entrepreneur, like your business, your journey, whatever that outside of home, outside of family journey is for a person. Right. I think that's also where it shows up too, because you kind of have three different dynamics. Your marriage, regardless of what your marital situation looks like your marriage is typically going to be a very probably the most vulnerable of those three things. Your household is kind of the second most vulnerable, and the third most vulnerable is employment. But sometimes that feels like the first most vulnerable because we kind of make ourselves about our job, and a lot of pride goes in, and ego goes into our identity as what we do versus who we are.
Yeah.
So having a growth mindset around those three life areas is really impactful. And said differently, like not having a growth mindset in those three areas can ragdoll a man, and it can leave you, because now the only thing that's ragdolling you and that you're responding to is whether you won or not. Like, did you get a win today? Right. Did you win in the moment? Did some material outcome happen, for you? But the first question we should be asking is, did we get better? Did we grow? How did we grow? What did I learn from that? What could I do differently? What should I make sure I do again because it worked? We don't usually go through those thought processes. We celebrate the win. It's almost like an early stage athlete. It's all about winning and losing. No, we're trying to make you a better person along the way. If we win and lose, that is important, but it's not our number one priority.
Well, and that's a great point. It's like a growth mindset it's not even about did I win or lose. Have I matured? Have I grown? Have I learned? That's the win. Not the the contract, not the new house. That's not the win. The win is I went through what I needed to go through, and I've learned what I've needed to learn. And that's not easy. That's right. Yeah,
that's right. It's very, very difficult. But it's worth it every time. It's just hard, and it does take some seeking out. Like everything great worth doing, it takes seeking. Like this growth mindset is not going to land in our laps, and it's an intentional decision. It starts with the decision that my life is about growth, not my life is about winning. Yeah. That in the sense that everyone else describes winning, right? Like my life is about being better. Best like sports example I could think about this is Kobe Bryant. Like Kobe has been on 1,000 During when he was here with us, he was on 1,000 interviews or podcasts and other things, talking about like failing is so, it's just kind of like his response to failing is so what, it's just like he's gonna win and learn, or he's gonna learn. Like either way, there was no lose. Like there's no, if you learned, you won. Like that's the way he saw it, and he was gonna find that win in everything, and in that context. And I think that was a really powerful, that like a long time ago, even as a like in my 20s, maybe an early teenager, but at least in my 20s, I took hold of that like hearing him say something like that. That's something that I spoke to myself about, since then. Like it's just whenever I have hardship, it's like, okay, well, what did I get out of that? Surely I got something out of it. Like God didn't let me go through anything difficult and get nothing out of it. I don't have a situation like that.
I wish people would talk more. Well, they probably do, but I wish people would talk more about the failure piece, because the temptation is to watch people. Let's just take social media. The temptation is to watch somebody and say, man, they have 1 million followers. I want 1 million followers.
Yep.
I don't get it in a month or 2 or 3 months, and I'm frustrated. I wish more people would talk about how, hey man, I got in this thing early and I spent days after days crying because nobody liked any of my videos or nobody responded to what I was putting out there. And it's like, I think the more we hear that, it kind of normalizes, hey, failure is a part of the journey. It's a part of the process. I don't grow without hitting these roadblocks. And it's how I respond to these roadblocks, which are the most important thing. So yeah, I love to hear people talk about the struggle.
Yeah.
Even when you've arrived, tell me about how, like, for a year to 5 years, you just struggled and you wanted to quit. When I hear stuff like that, it's so encouraging, man. It just blesses me.
Yeah, agreed. And maybe that sounds like an episode, what you just described. So yeah. We should keep that in mind, because I think there's especially if we can have a guest or two to talk about some areas where it felt like a failure, but something miraculous came out of it, and in growth and learning. So I guess kind of keeping us going. When you think about like we talked about growth mindset, we talked about where it shows up in lives today. How, like, some of the challenges that come along with it. Let's kind of tie that into a little self mastery. So like growth mindset is first, and then the self mastery is for someone who's already decided, like, I am going to grow. Growing is my priority. I want to be better. Now I need to add these tools, but then I need to also master my mind, right? And I need to master me. What are some of the elements in your opinion that a person should think about and should assess when they're trying to focus on self-mastery?
So when I think of self-mastery, I'm thinking about control, right? I'm in control of me. So like, I've learned these things. Now I'm in control of how these things function in my life. So, I think that's an important piece for us as men, because there are like these specific areas where we tend to lose control. Emotions. You're talking about sex. You're talking about power. Like, these are the places where we abuse the control and we lose control, and it could damage all this stuff you've learned. Like, you learn these things, you implement them in your life, but if you're not in control of self, then you can actually destroy everything you spent all that time building. Just with one dumb decision, you can kind of mess it all up. So like, as men, on every level, spiritually, kind of the spiritual power, authority, emotionally, we need to be emotionally under control. And even like our physical strength as men, we have to keep those things under control. Because if we don't, then you kind of mess up your growth with one bad decision sometimes. That's right.
Yeah, it feels like, so that's a great way to put it. I mean, the control piece made me think about impulse control. Yeah. Like can a man endure a moment of a heightened feeling of some sort, and emotionally angry, lust, to your point, like whatever it is, fear is definitely one of the big ones. Can we endure that, and then can we take that emotion and channel it in a way that is constructive? So it kind of starts self-mastery sounds like kind of starts with first understanding where those areas are when they come up, and recognizing and acknowledging those feelings. Like first, just do you even know that you like, do you have enough of a radar to see those things?
Yeah.
Second, can you, from seeing them, can you stop the initial damage those things can do? It's almost like a channel of water being let in from the ocean in force. Like that channel will be super destructive, but if it's stopped first as a dam, and basically there's a barrier there first of a controlling mechanism, then now you can direct that. You can redirect that energy into something that's very constructive, right? Yeah. And I think and that's kind of the third piece. So it's almost kind of, can you recognize those feelings? Can you then stop them for a moment, like stop the momentum of those feelings so that they're not destructive? And then can you rechannel those feelings into something constructive? Yeah. Like that to me is almost it's almost a playbook, oversimplified. It's the playbook of self-mastery, because that's, everything for us, for men, comes from a place of everything that's destructive comes from a place of fear and pride and anger, right? And those emotions, once controlled optimally, once controlled, you can be a different person. You can be a different person for yourself, but more importantly, you can be a different person for everybody you love around you when you are under control. And I think the last thing on that too, on that particular point, Mark, is when someone, like if you should not trust your barometer by itself to tell you when you're under control or when you're not. There are people around you that can potentially give you that feedback that you need an outside opinion. It's almost like if somebody makes something good, they don't just they get control groups. Like they don't just take their own feedback. I think my stuff's great. Like, okay, well, so what? They go get some other feedback. They get something from their wife, from their brother, from their sister, from their mom, from their child. Like if the child, is old enough to give you that feedback, like they go get some of that, and that then, well, do you think Dad is being this way, or do you think I'm being this way, sister? And you get that feedback.
You're not gonna. I think that ties into our first point. You're not gonna take the feedback. You're gonna be resistant to the feedback if you don't have a growth mindset.
Right.
If you don't have a growth mindset, then that's going to hurt your feelings and you're going to reject it. But if you have the growth mindset, it actually leads to better mastery of yourself. As you get these other inputs, as you listen to other people, it all kind of flows together to some degree.
Yeah, agreed. And when I guess there's something like brewing in my spirit, I feel the need to share. I hope it just hits and blesses somebody. Considering a lot of men's profession and how much money we make or what we can do professionally is our identity, oftentimes inside of ourselves, right? It's our identity. Like we don't walk in a room and not talk about it. Right. If that even potentially defines you, then this next statement, I hope helps. When you think about who you are so much more than your job, your profession, your title, how much money you make, your entrepreneurship. That is an output of who you are. Who you are is much bigger than that. And if you don't think being a good man, impacting those around you, serving God's purpose is bigger than your job, you haven't figured it out yet. Like you're missing a connection with God, and you're missing a connection with yourself. Like there's actually a whole nother you that you don't know yet, and that you haven't let come out to the world, that is powerful.
Right. I would even challenge a little bit the concept of that we as men, the connection of success to money, and like almost power. Because I think in the United States of America, in the world today, there is this concept of like, I've succeeded as a man when I'm making this amount of money, or I have this many assets. But like in the kingdom, I don't think God's goal or purpose for everyone is like this making of money I think real success, as corny as it may sound, really is, hey, I'm a good father.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a good son. I know how to listen to other people. I have wise people around me. I listen. I really do believe that real success for us as men is like, has nothing to do with like how big our house is or what kind of job we have. I think that's a hard thing to like let seep in, because everything about us on a daily basis says the exact opposite, and it's hard to make peace with the fact that, hey, success in my eyes may not be success in God's eyes. If I can master just keeping myself under control with my kids when I discipline them, if I can master being faithful with my eyes and the thoughts that are going on in my mind, I'm successful. If I can pass that to the next generation, I am truly successful. But it's a rewiring of everything that we see on a daily basis.
That's right, and it's difficult. One of the reasons, one of the many reasons that you and I are doing this, for those who might not know, has a lot to do with what you just said. Like everything on social media and everything in music and in movies is intended and built and designed to encourage the opposite of what you just said. It's encouraging every man to go be a multimillionaire, and that is not reality. It's just not. It's not wrong for you to have that desire to have more monetary means so that you can do certain things. I'm not at all saying that that's wrong, but sacrificing, being a good man or being a good dad or being a good husband is not a requirement to get those things. And if you are sacrificing that, then it's a choice. It's a choice to go do that. Like it's not a requirement that you just have to, because everybody's got to be a millionaire. So then you got to be not present for your family, because that's the only way to go be a millionaire. No, you don't have to do that. Maybe God has another path for you to be that millionaire if that's what's in store for you. Or maybe in the meantime, you focus on being a great husband and a great dad and being present, teaching your family, the moral structure and the spiritual structure they need, and continue to provide. I'm not saying sit at home and play PlayStation. I'm saying like continue to provide as God is intended. But on the other side of that too, let him manifest what's going to come from those seeds that you're planting while you go provide. Like he'll take care of the rest. I don't think anything. I think generally speaking, most things don't encourage that behavior. They discourage it actively, and to your point, like it's really difficult for a man to stay focused, at times on what's really important.
Yeah.
And that's where I think like you almost need a vision board, or you need something as a man, just to talk about tools for a second while we're on this topic. I think each man I would encourage to have something visual that's either in their bedroom, maybe on their mirror, on their side of the on their bathroom, maybe if they have office in their office or at work in their office, like wherever they can have a little vision board about like a reminder of what's important to you, and some of the things that, and it probably either is a word or a couple of words, or it's a question, right? And it's just something that grounds you every single day, every moment, so that you can remember like it's not wrong that you're working really hard, that you're a great dad, you're a great husband, and you serve in whatever way that is for you, and you make $50,000 a year or $40,000 a year, and you can take care of business at home. Like if the self-mastery part of that conversation is, can you live within your means, because that's your dynamic and you've made those choices, and those are the cards you have. You've got some new cards because God's always dealing. And at that point, like you just continue to make the best out of those hands, and you do so happily, and you give your family joy through doing it. Like that's the mastery part.
Yep. I love the example you gave. It's kind of like, I'm going to be at peace with being a father, a husband, being at the basketball game, being at my kids' events, which also means now I need to show self-control when it goes to my spending, because I've chosen a job that I'm only making 40 or 50,000. I should even say only. I'm making $50,000.
Yeah.
So I'm going to live that life so that I can provide for my family, not just from a financial place, also from a character, time, presence place. And so I love the example. You kind of tied it in. You all kind of brought it all together. Like as a husband, hey, I know in marriage there are going to be seasons, but also what that also means, because I want to be a good husband, I'm going to show self-control in what I watch on TV or watch on my phone, or how I interact with people of the opposite sex. Like, I'm showing self-control because I value. I've written this down. I've kept it before my eyes. You mentioned the vision board. I know this is what's important to me, and I've grounded myself in those things, which causes me to show self-control on all the surrounding areas so that this can continue to be true in my life, no matter where, 10 years down the road.
That's right.
We all need that.
We all need it. And we all have to help each other to do it, and tie it's full circle. That's why we're doing this, right? As we know that we need that. We've needed it in our lives. We know that men need that in general. And we're hoping that this, this gives them, at least this isn't like some silver bullet, but it does have a couple of arrows pointing in directions that you can go get some of these things. So that's what we're hoping for. I guess to kind of take the next step. Do you think that you can ever fully master? Like, can a person master themselves fully? Like, is there a stage where someone's actually like a done? They stamp it. They're official.
So, first thing I would say is, can you hear that lawnmower? Somebody's mowing their lawn right now.
You're fine.
Okay, good. Okay, perfect. Do you ever like fully master yourself? I would say no, because like I think we're constantly growing. I don't know that there's a cap on growth. I think a seed can be a tree, or it can be a whole, field full of trees. So because there's no cap on growing, I don't think there's a cap on areas in my life where I need to learn self-mastery. So that would be my kind of initial answer to that. But I do think the things that you have learned, you can reach this place where, like, okay, I understand what needs to take place here. And I've developed this discipline, this habit of like, these are the things that I need to do on a daily basis to continue to stay in control of myself. But I would acknowledge that at any moment, though, you can make the choice not to walk in self-mastery and kind of let yourself go. So I think it's kind of a fluid thing,
Yeah. It reminds me, honestly, it reminds me of like, if you're, if you let's say you spent the first part of your life with really bad relationships to food, and you overate or you ate the wrong things, and you're trying to change your health. So then you change your health, and now your relationship with food and your understanding with food is different. Your relationship with exercise is different, right? That's not a one-time thing.
Right.
That's a lifelong thing. Every single meal, every day, you're going to be thinking about, should I eat that? No, I probably should make that decision, because there are things inside of you, because you're human, that are self-destructive.
Right.
And those things are going to encourage, like, those thoughts will come up. Like, I don't think there's not often a time where someone goes, from having an addiction to like never thinking about that thing again. No, it's a daily battle. Like, it's a battle but it's a battle they chose. One day they made the decision, I am going to take on that battle. Right. And then from then on, I'm going to say that differently. I'm going to take on the war. And from then on, it was a daily battle. Battles make up war. Right. So you have a day where you lose a battle every now and then.
Yeah.
And that's not something that's something you should be accountable for, and something you're responsible for. There's no excuse about it. It's nobody else's fault. But at the same time, the next day is another battle. So win that one. Right. So whether it's a diet or an exercise or like an addiction, it kind of mirrors self-mastery, right? Because those things are related. Self-mastery is the mastery of those things I just described as examples. Right. So the self-mastery is like not beating yourself up. I think that's one of the key tools. Not beating yourself up, not being, self-destructive about like, oh, I had a bad day, or oh, I couldn't get this done, or oh, I'm a bad person because I fell, I fell victim to my own carnal thoughts, or I fell victim to these things. Like, no, you should own that, and then go to the next day and knowing that there's another battle, another opportunity to get a different type of growth and different type of win.
Let me ask you this. So you can either get specifics or not, totally up to you. Mm-hmm. But how do you handle when, like, you have these areas where you have kind of mastered being under control, and then the same person, let's just say you have this one area, whatever it may be, where you just it's just a struggle.
Yeah.
How do we as men kind of walk through that?
I think so. I think there's a couple of answers to that, and I'll try to give specifics to where I can. So I think in those areas where you don't have lifelong, committed decisions, where basically, it's not a wife, or a husband, and it's not a child. I'm talking like a friend, extended family, colleague, those types of areas. I think those are handled a little bit differently. Those areas, I think we got to be real comfortable recognizing when we're in and around things that bring out the worst in us. And look, to my comment earlier about the radar, we should seek out some of that pressure cooker opportunity and try to grow. But there also, this is where like some real discernment and your relationship with God comes in, because he can direct you through discernment. Like sometimes you are choosing to continue to plant your seed on concrete. Seeds don't grow on concrete. So like at some point you just need to stop planting your seed there and leave that situation, right? I've certainly been in that situation with an employer before, for sure. And I think that that's the first example that comes to mind, because then there is a commitment, there is a commitment there, and God is using them to bless me and my family too, because I'm getting paid. It's not like the other side of that it's a one to nothing kind of equation. We're given to one another in that relationship, but at the same time, like, it could be taken away from me more than I recognize, and my radar needs to be heightened so that I can recognize when, okay, well, I don't need to work with this person because they actually don't have my best interest in mind, right? Like, so I think that's one part, and that can show up in family too. The family side of that, I think, to your question, it's almost better for me. So for me personally, I do like my length of grace that I ask God for, and the level of forgiveness that I ask him for those closest to me, man, I have not found a limit to that yet. Like, because it doesn't come from me. So I haven't found a limit to that. Those relationships that are most important to me, he just continues to give me the growth and the grace. And yeah, you have a moment where you get frustrated, you get angry, you say something you don't mean, or you say something you do mean and you shouldn't have said it, and whatever that scenario is, you find yourself kind of in those tough spots. But if you just pray and you ask for that grace and that forgiveness, and you make sure that you're constantly looking for opportunities to give it in those relationships, everything else kind of tends to work out. Like iron sharpens iron, but that doesn't mean there aren't sparks and there's not opportunity for fire to catch around those iron sharpening iron scenarios, right? So that's one analogy I remind myself of frequently, is like get frustrated in the moment and you're just like, hang on a second, iron sharpens iron. It doesn't mean there's not sparks. Let me look around and make sure I'm flame proofing. Like, are we creating sparks right now that are going to burn other people, not just us? Then it goes for me and my wife. And then if we can calm those sparks down and sharpen iron thoughtfully, smoothly, we can still get the sharpening exercise without all the damage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. So let me say this. Let's just say we got two men. Mm-hmm. One man is struggling with growth, and this other man is struggling with self-mastery. Like, what would be our best advice to that person who's listening? They're like, man, I get what you brothers are saying, but like that growth piece, man, I can't do it. Or the other guy who's like, man, I just can't control this. I'm just losing the battle in this one area. Like, what would we tell them? Like, what would they walk away with watching this?
So if someone's struggling to that degree, which we all have at some point, and I'm giving this advice having taken it already, like something I did. So I'm speaking from experience. Number one thing I would suggest for any man in that position is to seek out counsel. Now, that counsel can be professional. I sought out both. I sought out professional counsel, like therapy, to work through the things that were blocking my self-control, like the things that I was leaning on as crutches that were getting in the way of me making better decisions. right? So I sought out some counsel to understand those things, to do some self-discovery. And then I sought out counsel, in the form of wisdom with people that I just trust. I didn't find perfect men because Jesus ain't walking, but I did find, people who were perfectly interested in my well-being, right, and my growth. And I surrounded myself with those people, and I seek out their counsel still now and will forever. I think those would be the 2 points of advice I would give a man, is to seek out a space where you can have that conversation, to be vulnerable enough to recognize and have it, and to be wrong, like to be open to being wrong, and recognizing that being better is not being more of what you're doing, it's be doing something different. And then seek out that external counsel, either through therapy or other means. And mostly, if you have insurance, if you have medical insurance through an employer, you probably have an employee assistance program. Like that means therapy is probably free. So there's really no reason to not seek that out.
That's good. So, because that's probably one of the number one things we struggle with as men is like, I have a problem. I don't know if I want to let anybody in on that problem.
Right.
So like the therapist, the trusted friend, the trusted group of men at your church or at your job, like whatever, wherever it is, finding that safe place. I think that's great advice. Yeah.
Yeah. How about you? What would you suggest for, to round us out? What would you suggest as far as any additional advice for men looking to get their arms around self-mastery and growth?
Yeah, I think what you said is the best starting place, is that being honest with yourself and asking for help. And there's a safe place out there somewhere. Like God is very intelligent. He knows what you need. So if you need that other input, I'm sure if you just look around, you ask God, you talk to God about it, He'll open your eyes to see like what's right there in front of you. Maybe it is EAP at your job. Maybe it is somebody at your church. Maybe it is, your father or whoever. Like God's going to provide what you need. So I think being honest with yourself and actually asking for help, that's the best place for us to start as men, is like just that honesty piece. I think we all kind of have this tendency to kind of lie to ourselves, our thoughts just tend to like kind of protect ourselves, and it's not easy to choose to acknowledge like that I need help, that I might be the problem, I might have this weakness, that I don't have what's needed to overcome this. We're not wired as men to like always acknowledge that. We're supposed to figure it out. We're supposed to have the plan. We're supposed to lead. So that at the minute I tell you I can't do it, like I failed, it takes a mature person to kind of acknowledge that. So if we can do that as men, I think that's a great start. Yeah.
Yep. Agreed. So I feels like a good place to pause too, for our next episode. And I hope that anyone that watches is blessed by this. Of course, we'll chop this up to some bite-sized chunks, like we're doing with some of the other media, so that those who don't have the time to maybe watch the video in full, get some of the pieces. But with all the context, it certainly is worth the watch. For those that are interested and are happy to share, we thank you for blessing us with that. You can follow and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Two Brothers Talking -Texas, or TX specifically. So that's Two Brothers Talking -Texas, and we'll post that on this video as well at the end. We hope that this blesses somebody. Keep in mind we have the third episode of the 3-part series, and that is relationships and impact building of life of connection. So we want to make sure that we're talking then about about fatherhood, fostering trust and intimacy, community. Those are some of the topics that we'll be talking about. It kind of builds on all the work that we've done up to this point, and then we'll keep it going. So thank you for watching. Have a blessed Saturday, and we'll see you next time.